Hey all, so today we will discuss about oral submucous fibrosis. So this is basically a pre-malignant condition and it is also known as atrophia idiopathica mucosae oris, which basically means that there is an atrophy of the oral mucus layer and the reasons are unknown. Idiopathic means unknown reasons or unknown causes. Right, later on, this term was basically given by Schwartz, but later on Joshi has redesignated as oral submucous fibrosis. Now, what is the main cause of oral submucous fibrosis? So, the main causative agent is basically the areca nut. So, here in this picture, you can see the person is habitual of having a lot of areca nut on a daily basis. Now, he is suffering from a pre-malignant condition which is known as OSMF. Now, why the individual is addicted of having a lot of arecanut? It is due to the powerful parasympathetic properties which will produce euphoria in the individual and will counteract the fatigue. That's why the individual is addicted. Now we will discuss about the causative agent of OSMF. So the first one is areca nut, which is basically a full fruit. And if we remove the husk from the areca nut, it will convert into a betel nut. So betel nut is taken in combination with the lime. So both of these are acting as an irritant for the oral mucosa. Now the next irritant is basically tobacco and the chilies. Chilies are having an active ingredient known as capsaicin. That is important, you need to remember. And these chilies are having an active irritant also. If you can remember, it is known as vinylamide of 8 methyl 6 non-anic acid, which is basically an active irritant, and capsaicin is active ingredient. Now, the individual with OSMF or any other oral malignant condition in general are suffering from nutritional deficiencies. So, vitamin B complex deficiency is also suspected to be the reason of OSMF or developing any other oral malignant condition. Although OSF or OSMF is considered to be a localized condition because it is affecting only the oral cavity, but some of the conditions such as scleroderma or rheumatoid arthritis, which are collagen disorders basically, are thought to be linked with this OSMF basically, right? Rest of the conditions like immunological disorders, altered salivary composition, and genetic susceptibility are the reasons of OSMF. Till now, we have discussed all about the causative agents of oral submucous fibrosis. Now, we will discuss what actually is oral submucous fibrosis via the clinical features. So, basically, it is chronic in nature, chronic progressive scarring disease. So, it has an insidious onset. It means it grows over a period of time. It grows gradually or slowly over 2 to 5 years of time. In early stages, we will see burning sensation, appearance of vesicles in the oral mucosa, right? There will be ulcerations, PTK, it means pinpoint hemorrhages will be there in the oral mucosa. Pain would be there because there is fibrosis. It means there will be deposition of collagen fibers in the mucosa that will restrict the movement of our mucosa, which will cause pain in the patient in early stages. There will be excessive salivation. Although the saliva is increased, still the patient may feel dryness in the mouth. Defective gustatory sensation or the altered taste sensation you can see. Or patient will complain that there is altered taste sensation, there is burning sensation in the mouth, there is excessive pain, right? And the ulcers and vesicles you can see. Now, with the progression of disease with the advanced stages, you will see increased fibrosis, due to which the oral mucosa will appear blanched and slightly opaque. The oral mucosa is symmetrically involved basically, and the fibrous bands which are present in the oral mucosa or deposited in the oral mucosa will run in a vertical direction. The density of fibrous bands will vary. It may be slight or it may be dense. If it is slight, there will be no symptoms, such as in soft palate, if there is deposition, it will appear slightly whitish. If it is dense, it may cause fixation, such as in uvula. So base fixation basically means there will be a restricted movement of that part, right? So due to excessive collagen deposition, it will cause fixation. So there will be difficulty in mouth opening, whistling, blowing a candle, swallowing, basically deglutition. And there will be fixation or deviation of the uvula and the soft palate also. So basically there will be persistent or recurrent glossitis and stomatitis. So as we have read earlier, that persistent or recurrent inflammation of the oral cavity will be there. Impairment of the tongue movement in some patients is seen, atrophy of the tongue papilla, and in later stages you can see if nasopharynx is also involved, then there will be a rough pain in the ear, and nasal twang or nasal voice will be a sign in some patients. So basically, to summarize, in OSMF, what happens whenever there is some irritant, that irritant will stimulate the oral mucosa, and in oral mucosa, as a defense mechanism, fibrosis will be there, excess of collagen deposition will be there, due to which there will be restricted mouth opening or movement of the tissue involved, or there will be the fixation of that tissue causing pain in the patient and reduced mouth opening. So whenever a patient comes and gives you symptoms such as burning sensation in the mouth or reduced mouth opening, there are 99% chances that this patient is of OSMF or oral submucous fibrosis. Now we will discuss about the histopathology. So histopathology is divided into two sections. So first one is the epithelial changes and the second one is the subepithelial changes. So in epithelial changes, we will see in early stages there will be an hyperplasia or hyperplastic epithelium will be there. But in later stages, we will see atrophy of the epithelium. Also, there will be a high tendency of keratinizing metaplasia. Here you can see keratin deposition. Keratin will be maybe ortho or para depending upon the location. So para keratinization will be there in the buccal mucosa, but ortho keratinization will be there in the structures such as soft palate. Now the second part is subepithelial changes. So in the layers below the epithelium we will see hyalinization. That is, hyaline-like material is present in a layer adjacent to the epithelium. Juxta means adjacent to something, adjacent to the epithelium. Juxtaepithelial hyalinization, which is the most important point of OSF. So juxtaepithelial hyalinization will be there, and inflammatory cells are present such as plasma cells, and in later stages we can see degeneration of muscles also. So this was all about the histopathology, and 3 points that you need to remember is: first one is atrophic epithelium, second one is fibrosis um, due to high deposition of or increased collagen fibers, and third one is the juxtaepithelium hyalinization. Now, I think the definition will make some sense to you after studying all the clinical features and the histopathology of OSF. So, let me read it out for you. It is an insidious chronic disease affecting any part of the oral cavity and sometimes pharynx, although occasionally preceded by and or associated with vesicle formation. It is always associated with juxtaepithelial inflammatory reaction followed by fibroelastic changes of the lamina propria with epithelial atrophy leading to stiffness of oral mucosa causing trismus and inability to eat. That whole we have discussed till now. So it is insidious means it is slow growing, it affects the oral cavity, it is preceded by vesicle formation or ulceration. There is juxtaepithelial inflammatory reaction because in OSF there is persistent or recurrent inflammation. There is collagen deposition in the connective tissue. Lamina propria is basically the connective tissue. Well, with epithelial atrophy, and this whole will turn out into stiffness and pain in the patient basically. So I hope you understood. Now, who are affected? Basically, the Southeast Asian origin people are affected, and female preponderance is seen, may be related to the factors such as oral habits or deficiency of iron, vitamin B complex, etc. Now we will discuss about the pathogenesis via some studies. So the first study states that there is clonal selection of the fibroblast which are potent of producing collagen in higher amount. Right. Second study states that due to the irritants present in areca nut, it will stimulate the fibroblast and these fibroblasts will proliferate more, due to which there will be higher production of collagen. Third study states that the collagenase production will be reduced. The collagenase is an enzyme which basically degrades or destroys the collagen fiber. So the collagen production is reduced, due to which collagen amount is increased in the tissues. Thirdly, fibroblast is having dual nature or dual action, you can say. These fibroblasts makes the collagen or synthesize the collagen, but it also helps in phagocytosing or degrading the collagen fibers also. So the property of fibroblast to degrade the collagen is reduced, due to which the collagen deposition is increased. Next study states that the catechins and the tannins which are released from the areca nut helps in stabilizing the structure of collagen, making it more stronger. Next study states that the OSF fibroblast basically produce a material known as lysyl oxidase. This lysyl oxidase help in cross linkage of the collagen structure, therefore making it difficult to degrade. Now lastly, some fibrogenic cytokines are released from the cells such as T lymphocytes and macrophages that will produce collagen. Now we will discuss about the biological studies. So the first one is the blood chemistry. If you see the blood profile, you will notice that there will be B12 deficiency, folate deficiency and iron deficiency. There will be raised total iron binding capacity. So due to these deficiencies, obviously the patient would be anemic. As it is an inflammatory condition, there will be raised ESR. The erythrocyte sedimentation rate would be increased. There will be eosinophilia. The gamma globulin would be increased. IgG, IgA, and IgM would be raised in the blood serum. There will be rise in serum mucoproteins, mucopolysaccharides, and anti-streptolysin O, ASO. Serum copper to zinc ratio would also be altered. Now we will discuss about the EGNAR count. So basically EGNAR stands for silver, that is AG, binding nucleolar organizer region proteins. So this count basically depicts the proliferative status of few cells, mainly the hematopoietic origin or epithelial origin cells. Right. So the EGNAR count is basically raised in advanced cases of OSF. Now, the immunological studies that we have already read about, the individual may be genetically susceptible because of the raised frequency of HLA-8, 10, B7, and DR3. And cell kinetic studies state that the alkaloids present in the areca nut will stimulate the OSF fibroblast, which will produce increased lysyl oxidase. These lysyl oxidase helps in cross linkage of the collagen fibers, therefore it will stabilize the structure and make the collagen more strong and will produce a lot of collagen basically. So these fibroblasts will produce a lot of collagen and there will be a deposition of the collagen in the lamina propria or the connective tissue. So this was all about the cell kinetic study. Now the management. Now, as we know that the individual is deficient in vitamin B complex or there is deficiency of iron, folate, etc., that we can provide, we can give nutritional support, we can increase the diet of the individual, we can provide protein supplements or proteinaceous diet to the individual. Now, second one is immunomodulatory drugs such as glucocorticoids and placental extracts that will decrease the inflammation of the lesion or inflammation of the oral cavity basically. Third one, we can give physiotherapy. We can force open the mouth, or we will suggest the patient to do warm compresses or heat therapy over the affected region. Fourthly, we can provide local drug delivery, that is we can inject the corticosteroids or placental extracts into the lesion. We can also inject hyaluronidase and collagenase in the region in order to destroy the collagen cross linkages or intracellular cement that is present in the lesion. We can destroy that. So, in combination with above discussed regimens, we can give peripheral vasodilators, and this is known as combined therapy, which will increase the success rate basically. The last one is the surgical management, which is considered unfavorable because if we cut the fibrotic bands in order to open the mouth, it will result in more fibrosis and disability. So, it is basically unfavorable and it is considered as a poor option. So there is one surgery known as bilateral temporalis myotomy, which is performed in such individuals, although it is unfavorable. So thanks for watching.